In today's news, Mr. Earl Bob Hodge identified as the murder victim in last night's shooting, and Police Commissioner Mr. Michael Matthews has said it is disgraceful in regard to the delay in installation of CCTV cameras across the territory.
Now, public service officers, their salaries are now up for review, as well as Vareen Vanterpool-Nibbs, appointed as the Registrar of High Court. Now, viewers, all this and so much more when 284 News returns.
Hey, Johnson. What's up? Well, you look like you're about to pass out.
I think I am. But anyhow.
Cho, what you doing?
Remember last year when I spoke to you over the phone? When I said, well. Anyhow, ever since that moment, I was wanting to take this step further with you.
OMG, Johnson!
I want to know if you, Via, would officially have me as your sales rep with a friend.
What?
To get live with our February promotions.
Huh?
Get live, get love, and get gifted. Bring a friend to CCT to sign up for a freedom plan, take a picture with them in the store, and post to social media with the hashtag GetLiveCCT. Then put your receipt with your number in the golden basket and wait on a call from Jante. First place gets $500 each. Second place, matching Samsung Galaxy A30s. And third place, $150 shopping vouchers each to one mark.
So are you really saying?
Really? And I could bring a friend too?
More the merrier.
Welcome there, viewers. Today is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. We are coming to you live straight out of the British Virgin Islands. I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes.
And my name is Javon Wilson. So happy to be joining you for another edition of 284 News. Now, lots to deliver on the local scene, beginning with a tragedy that has really been rocking the airwaves since last evening. Viewers, another murder recorded in the BVI, and we see the top cop, Police Commissioner Mr. Michael Matthews, calling for the speedy installation of CCTV cameras across the territory. For our parents and students, as well as guardians, you are now being formally notified that tomorrow there is no school. That is tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th. Of course, due to Professional Day, also the midterm break is on Friday, February 12th. So no school then as well. So school will essentially resume on Monday, February 15th. And Kyla, after a very long halt, we see the cabinet announcing that they will be resuming publicizing of decisions with effect from tomorrow, February 11th, which of course will be covering the period of decisions taken from the first meeting that was held on the 7th of January, 2021. And I do believe as the highest decision-making body in the territory, it is critical that the public continues to be informed. But not only that, I think that also makes it very easy, or at least a little bit easier for us as reporters to deliver the news.
Most definitely. I think it's very important for the people of the BVI to be fully informed as to the decisions coming out of cabinet.
All right, viewers, we're going to head straight into our newscast for today, and we will begin with very tragic news. Mr. Earl Bob Hodge has been identified as the murder victim in a shooting incident that occurred just around 8 p.m. last night in Hannah's estate. The late Hodge was not only a prominent businessman, but also known as an enthusiast and avid supporter of horse racing in the territory. Now, viewers, ever since learning of the tragedy, many persons have taken to social media to express disbelief and condolences. One such person was businessman and musician Mr. Eustace Freeman, well known as Boss, who said, and I quote, "Bob literally was the first person along with his family to take a chance and believed in Showtime band BVI, giving us our first ever gig at Coconut Branch Brewers Bay. They remained supportive the whole way through. In many ways, I feel like I owe my music career to Bob and his wife, Letty. Mr. Gunman, the murders need to stop. Condolences to the family and friends. Hashtag stop the crime. End of quote. And Kyle, I do believe indeed that the territory is strongly speaking out against crime in our community. But not only them, we see the police commissioner expressing frustration over the delay of installation of CCTV cameras. Now, Mr. Michael Matthews is now calling for the swift installation of these cameras following the recent murders here in the Virgin Islands. The top cop strongly believes that the CCTV system will alleviate crime and serve as a deterrent of nefarious activities in the territory. Now, speaking to our newsroom just today, Mr. Michael Matthews said, and I quote, "There is no doubt that the long-promised CCTV system would assist in the prevention and reduction of crimes in the territory and the detection of some of the recent murders. It is disgraceful, in my view, that we had an agreement and funding in 2018 for the new cameras and not a single one so far has appeared. They were actually purchased well over a year ago, and I am told the delays are contractual issues." End of quote. Now, viewers, while acknowledging some of the constraints, the top cop maintains that it should be treated as a top priority, especially in light of the recent murders that rocked the territory. He further said, and I quote once again, "I am also aware that the conditions under which the loan from the Caribbean Development Bank has been obtained for the CCTV system has led to bureaucracy and delays. I have been complaining for the past 2 years to the government on the delays. It is simply not good enough in my view, and the law-abiding communities of the BVI deserves much better," said Mr. Michael Matthews, adding, and I quote once again, "The police cannot be everywhere, and that is a fact, but we have spent a great deal of time identifying where camera technology can be used to best effect, and we can be hugely assisted with such modern technology. It should have been a bigger priority than what it has been given here to date." End of quote. Now, viewers, in June of 2020, Mr. Michael Matthews revealed intentions to install just over 174 CCTV cameras across the territory during a virtual emergency community meeting that was inspired, of course, by a spike of crime we saw in Virgin Gorda. At that time, the 9th District Representative and Minister of Immigration, Labor and Natural Resources, Honorable Vincent Wheatley, made a pledge of $20,000 towards the installation of cameras to alleviate crime on the sister islands. However, to date, no installations have been done. Kyla, we know just last night, the prominent businessman and, of course, such a fan of horse racing in the territory. And like Boss said, somebody that was well loved, and dear to the hearts of many persons, but also very supportive in the community, lost his life to a fatal shooting. But that was also preceded by 2 unexplained deaths. That was back on February 5th, just a few days ago. That, of course, is now being investigated by police as a murder-suicide. Those persons, viewers, as you can see on the screen, have since been identified as Mr. Rodney Simmons and Andrew Skerritt, respectively. Kyla, what a mouthful coming out of our top cop as we continue to grapple with a rise in crime in the territory. You know, when I look across social media, especially on WhatsApp, I think the one common sentiment we're seeing is, what is happening? What is happening? This is not the BVI that I know. This is not the home that I grew up in. And I think collectively as a territory, we're all trying to figure out, how do we curb the crime? And like the police commissioner said, yes, the police are there to do their jobs, and we're not taking the responsibility away from them, because at times we do feel like the police can do better. However, we do see that help is needed, not only with these CCTV cameras that are yet to be installed, purchased and on hand, but yet to be installed, but also the community really coming together and taking into their responsibility the fact that we all need to come together to reduce crime in this territory.
It's been such a hit over the last few days. Just less than a week ago, the first murder of 2021, Mr. Rodney Simmons. And now in the 3rd District, once again, we have Mr. Earl Hodge. And it really has shaken up the entire BVI as they all three men, known and loved by the people of the BVI. Really unfortunate situations we see, but yes, the top cop did acknowledge that there might be some bureaucracy, but it's been a lot, and I'm hoping that the powers that be and who needs to can clear up this bureaucracy as soon as possible, because the help is needed. I think I can agree with the top cop. The police cannot be everywhere, and that's just the situation that it is. So the help that they can get to curb crime in our BVI is most needed.
Absolutely. And of course, we want to express our sincerest condolences to the families and friends of all three of these men who have lost their lives.
Of course. Now, as we move on in our newscast, Premier of the Virgin Islands, Honorable Andrew A. Foy, announced that Cabinet, along with the Deputy Governor's Office, has made the decision to move forward with salary reviews for public officers. Now, this announcement was made during the handing over ceremony of the North-South Administration Building. Now, viewers, hear what Premier Foy had to say.
That is why the DG has moved with us towards the cabinet. And I announced today that we have ordered a revision of the salary of every public officer. People have to start to be paid what they're worth. Now I know some listening would say, well, all right, what I have to do with this building? We could get more building once we pay people properly. And we will have people walking and coming back home because they realize that their talents and the money that they've spent getting that degree is not worth it. It's going to be asked, why do that during COVID when money is tight? But we are people of faith. You don't prepare for when it get better. You're prepared to get better. And this review will take 6 months to a year. And by then, COVID's supposed to be finished. If it ain't finished, under control. But at least by then, the new salary scales will be done. And you'll be being paid for your worth. That doesn't mean we increase the public service, please. But it means those who are there are going to get their worth.
Now, viewers, from the expression on our Premier's face, you can see that he is very passionate about the points that he was making. Now, viewers, Premier Foy made a few points in which he highlighted during this announcement. One, he said that public officers need to be paid what they are worth. Now, the last public service salary review took place in 2006. Now, some officers and residents of the BVI may agree that it may be time to revisit salaries. But also, Javon, Premier Foy spoke to students returning back to the BVI to serve their country. Now, Premier Foy is insinuating that, in his opinion, that this salary review will now encourage graduates to return home. Now, this is a topic in our territory that we've been having for quite some time, as well as Premier Foy pointed to the obvious. Now, why review salaries in the midst of a pandemic? And this is a question that many residents might be asking after this announcement. But Premier Foy said that the approach is simply for us to have faith. And lastly, a few months ago, the government announced a hiring freeze within the public service amidst the pandemic. Now, this was also insinuated by the Premier during his announcement, and some residents are calling this move a bit counterproductive if a hiring freeze was to enact really for the government to save money during this pandemic. So there's a lot of questions really floating around after this announcement. But Premier Foy did explain that the salary review will take 6 months to about a year. And he said by then, coronavirus should be finished or at least under control. And these are just some words from our dear Premier, Honorable Andrew A. Foy.
Wow. Kyla, I have a few things to point out here. First of all, let's start with the hiring freeze that came about as a result of COVID-19. Clearly, a move that came about because the government saw a need to save money. And with no recurring revenue, with no revenue being generated in the territory, of course we need to look at ways that we can cut losses.
Of course.
But when we think about the government's salary, I think above every other industry in the territory, government salary has been stable throughout this entire pandemic. So we haven't seen salary decreases. We haven't seen any job losses in public service. And while I don't think that should have been the case necessarily, I do believe that it's somewhat a slap in the face for other persons who have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19, who have seen reduced salaries. So then instead of trying to review salaries in this time, and the premier said COVID-19 should be over in a year, but I don't think anyone can predict that.
Nobody
safely.
can predict that.
Absolutely. So then we have to be careful. We have to be very careful with what we're saying. While I do believe there should be a raise in salary, I think generally across the board, why not raise the minimum wage? We are working for a minimum wage of $6 in this territory. Rent begins at about $800 or $900 for a studio apartment. How are we to survive? So I guess the sentiments that we're hearing across the territory is not necessarily against a raise of public servants' salary, but more for a raise across the territory, especially for those persons who have suffered adversely throughout this pandemic.
Of course, but we do want to emphasize again that this is a review in salary and that it might not come about until 6 months to 1 year. But all of these sentiments are very valid coming from the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, viewers, still ahead, Mr. Governor John Rankins. Now he visits Virgin Gorda, as well as Vareen Vanterpool is now the new registrar at the High Court. Viewers, all this and so much more when 284 News returns.
The win! Oh!
Twitter to help.
I'm freaking out!
Is time.
284 News.
Coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands.
What's poppin'? What's really good? What's happening? What's happening? What's up?
Davis has won it for the Lakers!
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us here at 284 News. Now, experienced legal professional Ms. Vareen Vanterpool-Nibbs has been appointed Registrar of the High Court effective February 15th. Now, viewers, Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs will be responsible for ensuring that the court's administration operates in an efficient and effective manner and in keeping with the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court's procedures and rules. Specific rules include managing the efficient business operations of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal in the British Virgin Islands, as well as administering hearings, coordinating mediation, and corresponding with litigants. His Excellency, the Governor, of course, Mr. John J. Rankin, CMG, said that Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs' mixture of experience with civil litigation, drafting legislation, and contract negotiation will strengthen the territory's courts. He said, and I quote, Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs has a breadth of legal experience from both the public and private sector that will benefit the territory's legal and judicial system for years to come, end of quote. Now, there's the Deputy Governor, Mr. David D. Archer, said that he is very pleased when Virgin Islander professionals of Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs' caliber choose to contribute to the territory by joining the public service. He said, and I quote, talented legal professionals have abundant options in the territory like ours, Mr. Archer said, adding, I am proud that highly skilled persons like Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs elect to bring those talents to work for the people of the Virgin Islands, end of quote. Now, viewers, Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs has previously served as a senior associate at Harney's BVI, Principal Crown Counsel in the Attorney General's Chambers, and as General Counsel for the BVI Ports Authority. She holds a Master of Arts in Advanced Legislative Studies from the University of London, a Certificate of Legal Education from the Eugene Dupac Law in the Bahamas, and a Bachelor's of Law from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs currently serves as a member of the Legal Aid Board as well as the Immigration Board. Now, the High Court Registry is responsible for facilitating the effective administration and dispensation of justice by the Supreme Court and to ensure the proper registration, preservation, and retrieval of legal records. We are so incredibly proud of Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs, Kyle, and of course, take this opportunity to wish her all the best as she serves within this new capacity.
I think our Deputy Governor said it very well. Seeing a daughter of the soil, Mrs. Vanterpool-Nibbs, give back to the people of the Virgin Islands, although there are many options out there for persons of her caliber and her experience, but she chooses to give back to the public service and to the territory of the Virgin Islands. So we definitely want to wish her all the best in her capacity, and we know that she will do well. Now, as we move on, our new governor, Governor Rankin, has taken Virgin Gorda. Now, the newly appointed governor, Governor John Rankins, visit Virgin Gorda in an effort to learn about one of the beautiful sister islands. Now, the governor was greeted by Honorable Vincent O. Wheatley, as well as Honorable Shireen D. Flax Charles, and accompanied by Sister Islands Coordinator Miss Sasha Flax and District Representative Mr. Vern Whitley. Governor Rankin was giving a quick lesson about the new Nurse Iris O'Neill Medical Center, which will offer a first-class medical facilities to the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, His Excellency Governor John Rankin knows that young people are the future of the BVI, and so was delighted to speak to pupils of the Robinson O'Neill Memorial Primary School and Principal Kimberly George and Hilroy George at the Brigado Flax Primary and Secondary School. Now, the governor also met a number of government officials, including the Immigration Department team and of course, a trip to Virgin Gorda would not be complete without meeting local hero Mad Dog, which is Stephen Green, as well as seeing the copper mines or a trip to the famous bats. Now, later this week, Governor John Rankins will visit Josephine Dyke to once again learn about one of our beautiful sister islands. Now, Javon, I think it's very important as our newly appointed governor for Governor Rankins to make his rounds. Of course, he will be stationed here in the Tortola, but to make sure that he knows all about our sister islands and the sister islands feel some love as well.
Absolutely. And of course, this will be home for quite a few years. It's very important. That's one of the things we absolutely loved about Governor Jaspert. So I'm very happy to see Governor John Rankins following suit. It's important for you to become familiar with whatever community you'll be serving. And I really love that Governor Rankins, within his swearing-in speech, he said, you know, I've been governor for not a territory. He was previously governor of Bermuda, but he acknowledged that every territory is different. And so as he moves forward in his tenure, I'm very happy to see him just getting out there and, you know, familiarizing himself with everyone across the territory. Now, viewers, still ahead, unfortunate news for local sports. The men's FIFA World Cup qualifying match will not be played in Tortola as planned, despite extensive preparations. And we see new COVID cases declining by 17% worldwide. I think this is a hopeful as we continue to examine what's happening within this pandemic. All that and more when 284 News returns.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, in local sports, we see the BVI Football Association confirming that the men's FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 qualifying match, which was scheduled to be played on Saturday, the 27th of March 2021, right here at home on Tortola, has been moved to a neutral location. The match will now take place in Curacao on the same date. Now, Football Association President Mr. Andy Bickerton said, and I quote, "This is disappointing news for the Football Association, its members, national men's team staff and players, and all its other stakeholders, particularly the Recreational Trust, who have been working hard to ensure that the facilities at the A.O. Shirley ground would meet FIFA's requirements." Further adding, "Our men's national team have not been able to play a home match since 2016 due to the damage to sporting facilities after the 2017 hurricanes and then the COVID-19 pandemic. Our supporters have been looking forward to watching the players who have come through our youth program, who would have been representing their country on home soil for the very first time. However, we recognize that the success of the government policy in controlling the spread of COVID-19 virus could not be compromised." End of quote. Now, viewers, the proposed travel schedule of the Guatemala's men's national team did not comply with the COVID-19 quarantine protocol currently in place here in the British Virgin Islands. Further, the BVI's 2022 World Cup qualifying match, scheduled to be played against St. Vincent and the Grenadines men's national team in Kingston on the 30th of March 2021, has also been moved to a neutral venue due to the impracticality of the COVID-19 protocol requiring a 14-day quarantine period currently in place in the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, the match will also take place in Curacao. The Football Association Technical Director, Mr. Dan Neville, said, and I quote, "Obviously, this is disappointing that, again, we have to play on a neutral venue and not in front of our own supporters. This is obviously a disadvantage from a technical point of view, but also disappointing from a personal view, as I was looking forward to my first home game since my involvement in 2017. And I think I can speak on behalf of the players who I know will also be disappointed that we can't play in front of our own people as well. While this is disappointing, the health and safety of the BVI people continues to come first, and we will look to continue preparations and to plan accordingly." End of quote. The national squad will be traveling to Curacao ahead of time to fully prepare for two extremely tough fixtures. And with preparations having gone well so far, the team will be looking forward to a good competition in March. Kyla, we continue to be so proud of our sports activists and enthusiasts within the territory. All of our players, they work assiduously day in and day out to ensure that they can represent the BVI flag on the international scene. Well, we were so looking forward. I mean, I'm not hugely into football, but I could definitely say I've been following the updates as they do a really great job at keeping the public updated on what's happening. But I know it's very disappointing to know that we won't be playing at home. But I think, as everything else, we just have to adjust as a result of COVID-19.
COVID-19 continues to affect the party, but we just have to keep going. Now, in this last story before we close out, Javon, now the number of new COVID-19 cases reported across the globe has declined for a fourth week in a row, according to data from the World Health Organization, offering just a glimmer of hope that the world is turning a corner in its efforts to contain the pandemic. The number of COVID-19 deaths reported worldwide decreased for the second week running, with 88,000 new deaths reported last week, a 10% drop compared to the previous week, according to the World Health Organization. More than 3.1 million new cases of COVID-19 were reported across the world last week, according to the World Health Organization, with their daily reports.
Yes.
These might sound like still really big numbers, but it's actually a drop. So I think it is a glimmer of hope, and we'll continue to keep an eye on the situation.
Absolutely. Viewers, we are out of time, but you can check us out on 284media.com for more news, of course, here at 284 Media. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I am Kyla Kenesha Forbes. Have a great evening, everyone.